Hey everybody, and today we're going to be focusing on how to paint tzeentch again. So for this, we're going to focus on the warp flame. For this, an exalted flamer like this one here would usually have like regular fire, but I love the warp flame for the regular flamer, so why not? So let's get started. Okay, so you notice I already base coated with some white, and for this, we're going to start off with a contrast paint. Let me just find where it is. Where is it? Ah, here it is. We're going to start off with the contrast paint, Warp Lightning. And make sure you always shake up your contrast paints really good or else they'll dry real shiny, and you do not want that whatsoever. Just make sure, I was just checking the model to make sure it was still good. Okay, with the Warp Lightning now shaken up, we're not going to apply this on the palette at all. We're just going to make sure we don't have too much on our brush. For this, I'm going to take a medium shade brush. So for this, take very little. Make sure there's not too much on your brush like this. And for right here, we're going to focus where the Warp Lightning goes. And we're not doing it all the way. You'll see why in just a moment. Okay, there we go. That's the Warp Lightning part now done. Now, we're going to wash off my brush real quick. And like some contrast paints, Warp Lightning, Eldari Emerald, and Terraform Turquoise, as well as some red, they can stick onto your brush, so always make sure you wash them off thoroughly. Okay, now, we're going to take a technical paint. For this, we're going to use Hexwraith Flame. This is the old Hexwraith Flame. They made a contrast paint out of it, but I prefer the old technical version. Okay. So all this is it's more like a wash, so that it's a little transparent. For this, we're going to take our same brush, make sure we dry it off, and we're going to dip it in some Hexwraith Flame. So take some Hexwraith Flame. We're going to put this on the palette just to make sure we're not have too much on our brush. So all we're going to do, apply Hexwraith Flame all over the rest of the flame. So you may notice it's very pale, but don't worry, you'll just need another coat of this as soon as we're done. Actually, one coat will do. All right, there we go. All right, so now all we're going to do is we're going to start painting the tips of the flame. So for this, we're going to use a dark green. So for this, we're going to use Caliban green. So shake up your paint. We're not going to thin this down since this is a very small detail. So what we're going to do this. Take some Caliban green. This is just a small brush. So we're going to do this. So we're going to paint the tips of the flame. So usually about right here, we're going to paint it with Caliban green. There we go. All right, now, you may notice between the Hexwraith Flame and the Warp Lightning, the blend is not so solid. It's not too smooth, so we're going to apply a wash. For this, all we're going to use is another wash of Bealtan green. So all we're going to do is going to take this to shake up our wash. Okay, so with the wash shaken up, we're going to return to we're going to do something smaller. We're going to do a medium layer brush. So for this, take some wash. Put it on the bottom, make sure you're not wearing too much. So all we're going to do is going to blend the two together. So right here where it meets, we're going to blend them together just to make sure it's nice, so that the transition is more smooth. And there we go. And while our hex ray flame on the palette is still wet, all we're going to do is we're going to paint the rest of it. So right here, take the rest of the hex ray flame and just apply it all over the rest of the plane where you're applying hex ray flame. It's that nice little tint. All right, there we go. All right, the final stage for the warp flame is we're gonna add some yellow. So you may be wondering why we're adding yellow. Well, it's just to make sure, since the green flame burns hottest at the yellow, so we're gonna use at the bottom. So we're gonna use yellow. So for this, we're gonna take a simple wash. Where is it? I know I have it somewhere. Oh, here it is. We're gonna use some Cassandora yellow. So shake up your wash. Okay, since we need very little, we're not going to use the palette. So take some Cassandora yellow. So right here. All right, so for this, we're going to focus on just the edge. And you notice the blend is nice and subtle. You get a nice lime green tone instead of basic yellow. Okay. And that's how you paint the warp flame for Exalted Flamers of tzeentch. So, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on tzeentch again. And if you want more about tzeentch, I recommend watching Warhammer on YouTube. Okay, bye-bye.